This latest project of mine has once again illustrated a little, call it a gripe I have with how certain things work on the internet. I'll present the project, show you my issue, and maybe people have some ideas or thoughts. Anyway, I'm doing a redo on sealifeservices.com. I copied down their old website from the Internet Wayback Machine to start work on it, and you see it here. Unfortunately for them, their domain name lapsed and it has been purchased by someone else. It's not a disaster because I think sealifeserviceschicago.com is better, is a better domain name. Anyway, nonetheless, the customer wants me to find out if he could buy that domain name back. Now, one thing, I don't need any technical assistance in locating who would sell it back to me, finding that person. I know how that process works, which will bring up the issue. So if you go to sealifeservices.com, this generic page comes up and you do a thing called Who Is, and there's some other services that will tell you not who owns it because they keep that hidden, and that's kind of an issue with me. They can keep that hidden. I don't. If you look at any website that I make, any website that I control, it's public that it's me. And I think if you, I think that's the right thing to do. And I think it's usually not the right thing to hide who owns something. All right. So without getting too sidetracked, there's a domain name. Domain tools. Okay. So there are people who control it in the administrative and technical sense, and then there's this, what is it, perfect privacy, well, whatever, that you can include this kind of thing to shroud who actually controls or who actually owns the domain name. And we're going to get to my problem with it. Because right here, we see that the registrar is Empire State Domains, and the contact, you see Empire State Domains or Perfect Privacy down this page. The point is this: Empire State Domains, they present themselves as a so-called domain broker, right? So they will be able to tell you, they won't tell you who owns it. They'll just tell you what that entity would charge if you want to buy the domain, in this case, back from them. If history is any guide, domain like this that was originally purchased for, say, $19, Empire State will turn around and say, well, they want 1,000, or you could get it for 1,200. It'll be between 1,000 and 2,500 is my guess. Okay, so far it doesn't seem to be, that's life in the free world, right? But here's my problem. I'm going to start this off by saying I'll bet anyone listening to this, $1,000 straight up even money, that the entity who owns sealifeservices.com and is protected by Perfect Privacy LLC of 5335 Gate Parkway, Jacksonville, Florida, is in fact Empire State Domains themselves, who surely have a tool, actually they do, that tool that shows them, these are common tools, but they have them too, when a domain name is expiring, ding, 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 ding. Actually, it will. They're fairly sophisticated. The shorter the domain name, the better. .com better, which allows companies like Empire State Domains, the so-called broker, to buy up domain names that are expiring, and then turn around and sell them back to the actual business person who built the business at a $1,000 profit, 1,000% profit, or whatever it is. Um, so we'll get, there's a number of things that I think are wrong here. Now, some aspects of this you couldn't prevent by law, I suppose, but one of them you could, I think, or you could make it harder. I'll put it this way: if it was knowable by me and the guys who run Sea Life Services, great guys, great product, saltwater aquariums, I highly recommend them. If they were to know or be able to know that Empire State Domains had purchased the domain and they were holding it and hiding behind Perfect Privacy LLC, there's a number of ways to hide ownership. It's built into the system right now. But I think if that was known, the attitude about paying $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 to Empire State Domains, we had an automated tool that just scooped up the expiring domain for practically nothing. I think the attitude towards Empire State Domains would be very, very different. Most people don't know that, and they present themselves as a broker. I'm a broker. And maybe they even go to maybe they have a separate subsidiary or company that they cooperate with to hide it even more. But I think that's rotten. And, I'll close with this. There's certain things, like if you're smart and you're dedicated and you're hardworking, by the time you're, 20, you could know a lot of technical stuff. You could know calculus. You could know computer programming. You could, Beethoven or whatever was an awesome, was writing symphonies at that age. It takes a little longer to get experience in life to see the patterns of human behavior. And something that I've grown more and more dubious towards is anonymity by the wealthy and powerful. Anonymity by anybody can be a little dubious. Think of criminals. The scope of, that could be a whole discussion. There needs to be a domain of life that's private. But I'm a little dubious when companies hide who owns what, whether it's this kind of a thing or whether it's the companies who hide who owns what in Delaware, where Joe Biden is from. Hopefully he's going to, I won't even start in on that. But you get my point. I have become, as time goes on, more and more dubious about that kind of privacy or anonymity. Privacy. And I'm not a big believer in it here. And as far as my domains, Fisher Software, Nelson Hermance, I never do this as a matter of principle. Never. Why do I want to hide that Fisher Software owns FisherSoftwareUSA.com? And I own 5 or 6 other domains. Actually, I own more than that. Some some I'm holding for other customers. Some I own them myself. Why would I hide that? Why would I hide that? For what reason? And I would ask people out there, what is the reason to hide who owns a domain name? Now, I know there's some legitimate ones. If I have a political discussion that people don't like my politics, they could threaten me, etc., etc. But, if I'm a pundit and I'm on TV and I'm named Rush Limbaugh or Rachel Maddow or trying to pick extremes, I don't put a mask over my face to hide who I am, do I? So I think it's kind of, you should not hide what you own. Other than, I can think of exceptions, but I just have grown more and more dubious towards this. And if what I'm describing here wouldn't be frustrated by this, how would we frustrate it? And I don't want to hear, I'm sick and tired. I have issues with the right and left. On the right, I am so sick and fucking tired of the right wing blaming the victim, blaming the little guy. Fuck you, okay? Uh, so he should have just let his domain name, not let it lapse. That's not a good answer. That's not a good answer. Every one of us makes mistakes. Every one of us is imperfect. Every one of us sins. And some people could be in a position to take advantage of the troubles of others. We should not enable that. And that's it. That's how I feel. Thoughts?